Hi, I'm Ted Gonzalez, and I want to tell you about a man who grew up on England's south coast, found himself a broke young Englishman stranded in the American Southwest.
Like a ray of sunshine in the pouring rain, Joy Junction is an amazing place.
Well, yeah, I was brought up in Bournemouth, England, in a typical middle class, sort of middle to upper middle class folks with my mom and dad. And you know what? I didn't know the gospel. And this is so important to know. We always think that with Christian music and stores that sell books and Bibles, everybody knows the gospel. But I didn't. I got a copy of Good News for Modern Man. For the first time in my life, I prayed. I sat in my parents' front living room in Bournemouth, England at the end of January 1976, reading the beginning of Luke, praying as I went through. The only supernatural experience I've ever had, never had one since then, and it was almost like the type or the print on every page became like 6 feet high. And so I guess I need to say, Jesus, I'm a sinner, come and save me and come into my life, and that's how I got saved. Over the next few months, I developed an increasing interest in all things God and all things Jesus and His Word. I'm thinking, what if God's calling me to go to America and to be in full-time ministry? And arrived in Miami, Florida back in 1978 with $50 in my pocket, a one-way ticket, a visa upon which I couldn't work.
He had made it to the New Mexico-Texas border, but he ended up standing in the blazing sun for hours. As the hours passed, he became exhausted, so he left the highway and walked to a store. He looked through a telephone directory and called the first church he could find. He asked the man who answered if he could help him find shelter. He was told he could sleep on the church floor, but that he would have to walk there a distance of about 5 miles. That was more than his body and his spirit could endure, so he thanked the man and dejectedly hung up. He saw a restaurant that was about to close for the night. It didn't matter because he had no money for food. He saw that behind the restaurant there was a storage shed filled with odds and ends, and he looked for something to sleep on. The only thing that looked suitable was a piece of fiberglass, and that was his bed for the night. He woke up early the next day and headed down the highway again. Soon a trucker stopped and gave him a ride to Phoenix. By this time he was starving. Without his asking, the kind trucker shared his sandwiches.
So at the end of January 1982, I was on the border of New Mexico and Texas, and I had $12, $12 left on me in money. Opposite me was a motel with a light. So clean rooms, lights, whatever, TV, $14. And this is an issue that's faced by the homeless all around Albuquerque every day. You almost have enough money for a burger. You almost have enough money for a room. It's almost, or if I could, if I hadn't, if I could.
Given his situation, alone and broke in a strange country, it was hard to see the Lord's hand in his life back then. He had feared becoming homeless. That fear invaded his dreams and woke him up when his heart raced and pounded. Now he was just another homeless person on the road. What lay ahead? He had heard that God has a plan for each of our lives. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope in a future." But it would be a long time before he knew what new promised land was in store for him.
I didn't know that when God calls you, it means that, it could be a calling for right then, or it could be a calling down the road also. So over the next few weeks and months, I got married, I had some part-time jobs, but in the end, my ex-wife and myself came home one day, and the scariest, most humiliating thing out, every single thing we owned had gone. We both burst into tears, that everything was gone. I was humiliated, embarrassed. I didn't know what I should do, and it seemed every step I took forward, I got knocked 2 backwards. People tell me all the time, oh, the homeless want to be homeless. Dude, not me. And I kept on thinking, I failed. And a voice inside me said, go back to England, you can make success there. The other voice said, no, I've called you over here. I did so many things wrong, but all I wanted was another chance. I had Jesus and I screwed up real bad because it was all about me wanting to do what I wanted to do instead of saying, Jesus, what do you want me to do?
Those early days in the United States gave him an opportunity to reflect on the Lord's goodness.
My restoration toward coming out of homelessness came when I told the Lord, I said, Lord, I'm sorry for what I've done. I don't care if I'm ever in ministry again or not. I will ask for money. If you grant me the chance to be in ministry, I will ask to fund the ministry, but I will never ask for money for Jeremy Reynolds again.
Jeremy Reynolds founded Joy Junction in Albuquerque in 1986. Joy Junction is a homeless shelter caring for as many as 300 people nightly. A place where needy people can find a place to stay and enjoy a warm, nourishing meal. Homeless families are the fastest growing segment of the homeless population. Sadly, shelters that meet the needs of homeless families are not keeping up with the ever-increasing need for their services. The mission of the shelter is to ease at least a bit of the human suffering the staff see around them, and to be an extension of the love of Jesus Christ to troubled and often desperate lives. Just like Jesus did, they take people exactly where they are at and ask the Lord to clean them up and make them whole. Joy Junction provides well over 200,000 meals a year to homeless women, men, children, and families. More than 6,000 of those meals are served monthly on their mobile feeding unit, the Lifeline of Hope.
So this is our mobile feeding unit, which we have dubbed the Lifeline of Hope. We feel essentially that's what we're doing. We're throwing a lifeline to those in need. And I think we all think, and Dr. Reynolds certainly believes, that when we throw out that lifeline, it offers a sense of hope, which is ultimately our mission. We want to make sure that people who, for whatever reason, have chosen not to come to a shelter or have been banned or denied for whatever reason, we still feel like it's essential that they should have the very basics, which obviously include food. We have had the Lifeline of Hope for about 5 years now, and it was donated to us by a local company called Summit Electric, who offers also gifts in kind to Joy Junction.
The Lifeline of Hope is a lunch wagon filled with coffee, soup, sandwiches, and other food to bless the homeless of Albuquerque. The wagon visits areas frequented by the homeless and provides a lifeline in the form of food, drink, and prayer.
Hi, my name is Michelle Trevino. I've been here almost a year. I started working here doing the Lifeline of Hope. I go out, into the community and I feed the people. It's a really enjoyment, to go out there and feed people that need it on a daily basis. You see the elderly, men, women, children, they come running to the Lifeline of Hope, for a cold drink, a sack lunch that has, some snacks in it, a hot food, and it really helps them, to survive on a daily basis.
For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. This Lifeline of Hope lets those using its services know that someone cares.
The side of the Lifeline of Hope has just been opened, which gives out hygiene packets and other things which are really essential to us being able to function on a day-by-day basis. Of course, some of these items these folks are getting today just over there are not items that we necessarily think about having unless you don't have them. And that's what makes the Lifeline of Hope so important. We give a lifeline of hope to those who literally on so many days don't have hope.
Thank God that feeding the hungry is still legal in Albuquerque. Close to 40 major cities across the United States have instituted food sharing restrictions, reasoning that by cutting off the food source, the homeless will go away. Ministries must obtain a health department permit to show their food is safe, and many cities make them apply for a food sharing permit. They are even restricted to the number of times in a week or month they can provide free food at the same location. Some cities are seeking an outright ban on outdoor feeding. Jeremy does not agree with this attitude. In fact, he does not believe in cities curtailing works of mercy.
Sometimes people have come to me over the past few years, and it was sort of like I was back in the early 80s when I began this ministry, both this one and my one prior, I just wanted to help the homeless. You know, I didn't think you had to do, I didn't think of things like having to keep books in the IRS and bureaucracy and administration and health codes and fire codes, but there's a tremendous amount of bureaucracy involved in it. And at one end, when you take that to its excess, it's really bad. On the other end, it keeps folks safe. I see people like feeding the homeless out of their car, out of the back of their van or whatever, and you know, I say more power to them. You know, the homeless are hungry, these folks have a good heart, and that's great. But we're not allowed to operate like that. We have 2 vehicles, mobile feeding units, we call the Lifeline of Hope, and between the 2 of them, they travel Albuquerque from southeast to southwest 7 days a week. Literally, we feed as many as 6,000 plus meals every month. That's a lot of meals, it really is. But we can feed a sack lunch, and basically that's like a cup of soup, which can be made hot at the right time. But we also have permission from the Bernalillo County Health Department to feed food, meals, hot dog sandwiches, taquitos, tamales, burritos, and so on, which has been prepared in our county health department licensed in our facility in the South Valley. Now, the health department has told us clearly, okay, when you take it out from the kitchen at JJ, you have 4 hours. And if you haven't fed all of the food, if you haven't gotten rid of all of the food in that 4 hours, that food then has to get thrown away. Why? On the surface, it seems stupid. I say on the surface. But the idea is to keep everybody safe, because what happens at the end of that 4 hours, the temperature goes down. There's more chance, I guess, you know, for bugs and microbes and all these little things that make us sick. So it's not a question of saying, oh, look good, we can just like feed these people out of the back of our car. No, we can't. But again, this can sometimes tend to discourage a lot of folks, because they're thinking, oh, I just want to feed the homeless. It's true, but you also have to, but wait until you feed a homeless person a meal from your kitchen at home, and you do it with the best of intentions and a great heart, but then the unthinkable happens. Howard, the homeless guy, gets sick, or Jimmy, the homeless guy, gets sick, and he meets up with a lawyer. No offense to all the lawyers out there watching, he meets up with a lawyer who says, hey, you can get some money out of Howard. Why don't we sue him? Don't even have to pay me any money. Just sue him. Yeah, if you win, we'll both get money. If you don't, you won't. And so before you know it, your life is in shambles because you don't have any insurance, and you basically have been feeding bad food. And so even though while it seems good for folks all around town to be fed by presumably unlicensed people, I'm not speaking against that or for that. You know, in our ministry, we do things a little bit differently. We make sure we have a county health department license, we have insurance, because we want to do things decently and in order. But that's just an example of all the red tape that we have to go through. And that's just a small example in order to keep going day by day.
Joy Junction is a faith-based ministry where sharing Jesus kindly and compassionately with homeless guests is essential. Why do they feel so strongly about that message? It is because Jeremy's experience working with New Mexico's homeless for over 30 years teaches him that people often fall into drug abuse and an inappropriate use of alcohol to escape the emotional pain and despair characterizing their lives.
Somebody made a comment to one of our staff who asked this for me. They said, as long as we have alcohol and drugs in our world, we will never end homelessness. And that's so true. Now, that's not to say that alcohol and drugs are the only reasons that people become homeless. There's domestic violence, there's mental illness, there's the LGBT issues. But again, I would say many, many people, probably more than most, become homeless as a result of alcohol and drug abuse. And that, as Christians, because the majority of our audience here is that, or are that, I've heard it say, oh, well, he's just an alcoholic, he's just a drug addict. Well, yeah. And then that's almost said sometimes, not by obviously those who support the homeless and probably by many of those who watch our show, but that's almost said by some people in a dismissive attempt to say, well, because they're alcoholic, because they're drug addicts, that relieves us of our responsibility to help people. No, folks, it doesn't. You know why? Because we want to go one step further and say, what was there about Howard's or Jeremy's life? What was there about life that made life so bad that all we wanted to do, all we could do, was take refuge for our broken life in a bottle or by a needle? Now, yes, at the beginning, it is a choice, no doubt about it. But think, folks, before you condemn somebody out of hand, why they made that choice. They made the choice because they wanted to alter their reality, at least for a few hours, so their life wasn't as hellacious as it had been. Then after the first bottle or six, or hook, or a hit, heroin or needle, then they became addicts. Then we have real issues on their hands. So as long as we have issues like that, we will never end homelessness. And just think, folks, if you believe we will end homelessness, you're looking at a pipe dream. You know why? Because today, maybe just say in the city of Albuquerque, this is a random figure. Today, maybe we'll house 20 people. Tomorrow, maybe 20 more will become homeless. So yeah, we prefer to say something different. We prefer to say, at Joy Junction, we are ending homelessness with God's help. Space. We are ending homelessness one life at a time.
While regularly working with medical and mental health professionals, Joy Junction offers a relationship with Jesus Christ as the cornerstone on which to build a fully recovered life. As far as Jeremy and his staff are concerned, doing otherwise would be immoral. While the homeless obviously need many physical resources, what else other than a relationship with the God of the universe could help them get through each day? While Joy Junction shelters and feeds people and provides an array of other services, they also offer a 9-month faith-based life recovery program called the Christ in Power Program, or CIPP. CIPP participants are taught the skills they need to re-enter and succeed in the workplace. They learn, for example, anger management, healthy eating habits, resume writing, and a variety of important coping mechanisms.
We could write a book on how successful this program has been in people's lives. We had a couple here that came to me and they said, "Chappie, we want to go through premarital counseling." So I told them, I said, well, we're going to take 6 sessions and we're going to go through it. That's okay, we're in the program and we'll do it. Well, they did, and Dr. Reynolds, God bless his heart, he repeated their vows. I walked her down the aisle and gave her away. That precious one graduated our program. She lives states away from us, and she calls me periodically just to let me know she's okay.
My wife found out that I was doing drugs, and she says, "Marcus, I give up on you. I lost everything. I lost my job, I lost my house, I lost my identity."
Ephesians 1:11 says, "In him we were also chosen, having been predestined according to the plan of him who works out everything in conformity with the purpose of his will."
God has a plan for me, no matter if I can't see it, just like this dark room. We don't know the history behind this church that we're in, but God has a plan. And the plan he had for me was to use the life that I live to help others. And that's why he brought me here.
Jeremy believes the Lord brings each person to Joy Junction for a reason. For some, it is to help them survive in a world beyond their handling. For others, it is to give them a certainty to their future. For many, it is to give them an opportunity to grow as men and women and to develop a close relationship with the Lord. He believes every person's life has been worked out according to God's plan.
You know, that's what Jesus does, because if we're going to have somebody come to us and say, you know, maybe you're an addict, a drug addict, alcoholic, and you come to us and we say, you know what, Howard, Jimmy, Fred, you need to get clean of this stuff. Maybe you've been to the county detox center as well. We say you need to get clean of this stuff. You're thinking inside maybe, well, yeah, it's all very well for him to say that, but he doesn't know the hell I've been through. So we know that, or we don't fully know it, but Jesus does. So we will introduce you to a relationship with Jesus. We'll send you to county detox so you can be gotten off the chemical aspects of that, you know, being an addict. Then, but there's the social, emotional, and spiritual effects also. which by our 9-month recovery program, we will help you take care of that as well. Because you have to have a reason to not be depressed. And so living in this world without a relationship with Jesus is depressing. I mean, it's like live, eat, breathe, drink, party, party because tomorrow you die. So why not have a good time? But in the end, the good time isn't a good time.
When I started driving, 3 months later, they offered me a position as a resident supervisor. And that's brought my whole life to a whole different ball game, because I feel right now I get to help people. I get to help people, let them know that drugs ain't the answer. Whether you're not doing drugs or whatever it is that you're doing, God will replace everything. God will replace everything that you're going through. You may not see it right away. It may take 10 years. It may take a couple months or even seconds, but God will replace what He's taken from you. And when He replaces it with love, with compassion, with grace, with mercy, it's hard to explain, but sometimes I just want to cry about how much He's done in my life.
Joy Junction is a family shelter, keeping entire families together during a crisis. Unfortunately, shelters like Joy Junction are still rare. Can you imagine how families would feel if they had to be split up, the way they are in most homeless shelters around the country? What would it do to them? It would separate them when they needed each other's support the most. Jeremy feels that Christians are biblically obligated to provide more shelters that minister to the entire family, to let God's love flow through us, to help strengthen the relationship the homeless have with their Heavenly Father. It would be a blessing for everyone if there were more family shelters around the United States.
But we take in husbands and wives with or without kids, single dads with kids, single moms with kids, and also 18 to 20, 25 single men a night as well.
This room is what we call our multi, and we call it our multi-purpose room because so many things happen in here. We serve 3 meals a day. We serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and those are all had here. We have our Christ Empowered program classes here. Any entertainment, any volunteers that come in with any sort of entertainment for our guests happens here. Activities with the children, and at the end of the day, when everything is said and done, these floors are mopped and swept and mats are laid out where people will sleep eventually. And it's all kind of cordoned off. We've got families in one section, we've got couples in another, single women in another, and then we have a special room where we keep single men. And we do that because our primary focus at Joy Junction is keeping the family unit together, which means that we have many children and women here, and their safety is of the utmost importance to us. In addition to the fact that we keep single men separate, it should be known also that everyone has a background check run on them. So if anyone has any sexual offenses on their record, unfortunately we cannot accommodate. And also if they have any sort of domestic violence issues, that's something that we kind of have to look at on an individual basis. But yeah, so this is our multi.
The homeless are everywhere. We have all seen them walking city streets, carrying their bags, pushing a shopping cart, or struggling under the weight of a heavy backpack. Many panhandle trying to eke out a living. Others walk and walk and walk, carrying both visible and invisible burdens and trying to pass the time. Young or old, clean-shaven or bearded, male or female, most of these poor souls have a look of tired desperation. In downtown Albuquerque, they almost blend into the landscape. Often they become invisible, and when we do see them, we really don't see them at all, at least not who they really are. Do we ever wonder what is behind the haggard, weary exterior? Do we rationalize our often judgmental attitude and lack of involvement with thoughts like, these people are crazy, or they are lazy, shiftless people trying to avoid work, or they are probably alcoholics or drug addicts? The Bible has over 300 verses on the poor and downtrodden, and they all reveal concern for them. How do we define kindness? 1 John 3:18-19 says, "Let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth. This is how we know that we belong to the truth." Our capacity for kindness and compassion stems from God's kindness and compassion towards us. And it is only through real and practical love for others that we know we are in the truth. The struggling economy continues to have a profound impact on New Mexicans. Professionals are out of work, college graduates are unable to find careers, and countless families worry about making ends meet. Many of these people in need are being forced into homelessness, sleeping on the street and living in their cars. In some areas, during Joy Junction's daily street outreaches around town, they see long lines of people needing something to eat and drink. On night outreaches, they also see people sleeping on the streets. During the economic downturn, Joy Junction has provided New Mexico's homeless with shelter, support, and hope. It has become the state's largest emergency shelter, providing over 200,000 meals per year and thousands of nights of safe, warm shelter to homeless women, men, children, and families.
As you've seen during the last few minutes, Jeremy Reynolds' life, both for the last 29 years at Joy Junction and before, has never been dull. During those 3 decades, he earned his PhD, wrote a number of books, and Joy Junction grew to become the largest homeless shelter in New Mexico. But something very special happened in March 2015 when Jeremy married his fiancée, Elma. A summary of their story has been shared in local media and is also available on the Joy Junction website. After emigrating from the Philippines to the United States, Elma has quickly immersed herself in helping Jeremy continue the work at Joy Junction.
Hello, I hope you've enjoyed finding out a little more about Joy Junction and my husband, Dr. Jeremy Reynolds. Just after Jeremy and I met, the Lord spoke to my heart that we could do better together for His kingdom than we could by ourselves. I took that statement seriously. The need in Albuquerque has never been greater. With His help and your support, we're making a difference in the lives of the hungry and homeless. So, what are we doing? We're preparing the way for much needed and long-awaited new construction. Another short-term goal includes expanded kitchen. Our current facility, while fully licensed and functional, was never intended to turn out well. Over 16,000 meals monthly. Our chef and his crew do a great job preparing balanced, nutritious, and attractively presented meals. But to do even better, expanded kitchen facilities are becoming a necessity. Another thing we think important for our guests is a comfortable and designated children's area where moms would go and hang out with their kids, while our multipurpose area is cool and safe. Something else important to recovery will be the provision of a computer lab for our guests. It is no secret that today's society is one where working knowledge of computer is essential. And what a blessing it would be to have an expanded play area outside for the many youngsters who take refuge at Joy Junction with their parents. Play is important for child development. And we're also open to the possibility of expanding the concept and operating philosophy of Joy Junction to other communities around the United States. So having said that, with the Lord as my guide and my husband at my side, thank you for welcoming me to Albuquerque. I hope to meet many more of you as we keep on helping the homeless and hungry.
Thank you for watching. We hope you've been inspired by Jeremy and Elma's story and Joy Junction's ongoing mission to help the homeless and hungry here in Albuquerque. Joy Junction depends on your faithful support. So if this program has encouraged you to make a difference, please make a generous gift today to Joy Junction. Your donation of whatever size makes a difference.